5 sensitive topics you should avoid in your marriage. Hi friends, welcome to Marriage Realities, a comprehensive relationship channel. This video will showcase the sensitive topics you should avoid talking with your spouse. Constant communication with your spouse is the essence of a happy marriage. Easy and friendly communication between you makes your married life lively and interesting. Your interaction with your spouse should be that free-flowing and effortless. You're indeed lucky if you're able to converse with your spouse about any topic in the world. But sadly, such a thing is very uncommon among many couples. Often, your interaction with your spouse ends in arguments. There are times you feel you have nothing to talk with your spouse. You interact with your spouse when you're in the mood to talk and keep silent when you're tensed and stressed. When your communication becomes scarce, your relationship also becomes silent and voiceless. Interaction between you and your spouse is very important to bring you emotionally close together. But your communication with your spouse has one firm no. There are certain topics you should avoid talking with your spouse as it causes unnecessary arguments between you. Uncalled for words which hurt the feelings of your spouse and sensitive topics which create tension in the family should be completely avoided by you. When there is a varied choice of lively topic to be conversed with your spouse, it's surprising you choose topics which hurt him or her. When you talk with your spouse about topics which he or she feels sensitive about, it creates tons of unwanted tension in your relationship. Are you wondering what topics cause resentment and bitterness between you? The number one sensitive topic you should not converse with your spouse is religion. Religion is very personal to everyone. Let us suppose you marry out of your religion. You should be very careful when you talk with your spouse about religion. You should avoid conversations which hurts the religious beliefs of your spouse. You might not have faith in the religious beliefs of your spouse, but it does not in any way give you the right to pass remarks that make your spouse feel that you are being offensive about his or her religion. You knew that your spouse was from a different religion when you married him or her, didn't you? When you were in love with your spouse, religion was not an issue between you. Your love for your spouse was so powerful that you overlooked the religious differences between you. But after a few years of your marriage, you develop a lot of incompatibilities with your spouse and find it difficult to adjust with him or her. When you're angry with your spouse, your sole intention is to hurt him or her. It is here the topic about the religion of your spouse comes handy to you. You utter words which hurt the religious sentiments of your spouse, causing irreversible damage to your marriage. When your children are born, you want them to follow your religious beliefs. And your spouse is adamant that your children should follow his or her religion. War with each other that your religion is a better choice. You're wrong in doing so. You ignored your differential religious belief when you married your spouse. This attitude should continue after your marriage also. Both should follow their own religion and avoid talking about it. The number 2 sensitive topic to be avoided is the family of your spouse. Your family means a lot to you and you love them. Understand that it is the same with your spouse also. Your spouse loves his or her family and will never give them up. When you respect the family of your spouse, it makes him or her happy that he or she has married an understanding and lovable person. But often you do not get along with the family of your spouse. You feel they are too interfering and intruding into your personal life. You deliberately hold yourself aloof from your in-laws, making your spouse feel upset and annoyed. If this was not enough, you add fuel to fire by talking unwanted things about the family of your spouse. You pass snide remarks about your in-laws, making your spouse angry and tense. You might not love the family of your spouse. It is your right. But you have no right to degrade them and hurt the feelings of your spouse. Even if you cannot adjust with your in-laws, you should refrain from saying insulting words about them. Diplomacy is the key ingredient to handle your differences with your in-laws. Do you find it difficult to be friendly with your in-laws? It is normal. but you can at least be courteous and polite towards the family of your spouse. Do not make your incompatibility with your in-laws obvious by criticizing and ridiculing them. It hurts your spouse in a real bad way. Number 3 sensitive topic to avoid in your conversation with your spouse is comparison. You often compare your spouse with your more successful relatives or colleagues. You're wrong in doing so. When you indulge in comparisons, it makes your spouse feel irritated and ridiculed. Wife usually compares her husband with her more talented colleagues or relatives. My colleague, friend, earns more than you, and I think you should do more to be as successful as them. Insensitive words like these are enough to raise the hackles of any husband. You crush the self-esteem of your husband when you make persistent comparison about him with your more successful colleagues or relatives. Your husband hates you for this. Husband usually compares his wife with the beautiful women he knows. Your wife hates it. Your comparison makes your wife feel that you are no longer attracted to her because you feel she's dowdy and dull. The number 4 sensitive topic to avoid when conversing with your spouse is ridiculing. Most of you feel ridiculing your spouse does not harm your relationship in any way. Again, you're wrong. You often make fun of your spouse as if you are perfect. You ridicule your spouse about his or her way of doing his or her work. You also ridicule the appearance of your spouse. You make fun about the ability of your spouse. You make fun about the friends of your spouse. You ridicule the dressing of your spouse. You make fun about the eating habits of your spouse. Consistent ridiculing of your spouse is plain provoking on your part. When the tone of your voice has a derisive tinge to it, your ridicule becomes a huge relationship issue. The number 5 sensitive topic to avoid in your conversation with your spouse is character assassination. Most of you indulge in degrading the character of your spouse. Here is the insensitiveness of a husband. When your wife is angry, you call her a shrew. When your wife interacts with professional friendliness with her male colleagues, you pass derogatory comments about her character. You make fun of the family upbringing of your wife. Here is the insensitive attitude of a wife. When your husband is not assertive, you curse him to be a coward. When your husband is friendly with his female colleagues, you stamp him as a Casanova who is always on the lookout for beautiful women. When your love is fresh, both feel your spouse is the best. But when differences crop up in your marriage, you reverse your judgment about your spouse and brutally classify him or her as someone with lesser character. When you pass unwarranted remarks about your spouse, it creates tons of resentment between you. Can you see how you make unwanted mistakes while conversing with your spouse? When there are so many interesting topics to converse with your spouse, it is surprising you choose sensitive topics which create loads of bitterness between you. If you really want your marriage to work, you should sidestep such topics and concentrate on lighter topics to make your spouse happy and content. Unless your interaction with your spouse is exciting and breezy, your relationship becomes cold and lifeless. Did this video make you understand the sensitive topics you should sidestep to make your marriage work? Marriage Realities will have many such relationship eye-openers. Subscribe to my channel to understand your marriage in a new light. Press the bell icon for updates about my latest relationship videos. Make Until Death Do Us Part your relationship goal.